In this code, we'll review some basic things about object-oriented programming. So, we have a class called packet, and I have two private member variables, integer ID and real number double data. So, every class need to have a constructor. It could be an empty constructor, or it could have more than one constructor too. So here I have an empty constructor which doesn't do anything. It doesn't take any argument, and then I have a constructor that takes the ID and data. Again, remember, I want to kind of make it look different than the member variables, so I declare it as capital ID and then capital D data. And then I have member functions called set ID and set data that will really set the member variables ID and data. So I can call set ID and pass this ID as a parameter, and set ID function I can set ID equals ID, and similarly data equals data and set data function. Also have get ID and get data function that will return the ID and data value. Okay? Alright, so in the main function I declare, so this packet is a class name, and I'm declaring an object of packet, so I call it as packet1, so you can give any name for an object. Then I call the set ID function on the object and set its ID and set the data for it, and then I can use the get ID and get data function to print the ID and data value. Now remember, when I said packet 1, actually what happens is I'm not passing any argument, so the no argument constructor will be called and doesn't initialize any ID and data value. So I have to explicitly call the set ID and set data function to set the ID and data values. Now in the second case, I declare an object packet2 of class packet, and I pass the ID and data for this packet in the constructor itself. So ID will be 2 and data will be 20. So I don't need to explicitly set those values by calling set ID and set data function. So I can right away call the get ID and get data function and print the ID and data value of the packet. Now, so far so good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pointer to this packet object. So packet2 is the object name. So when I say ampersand packet2, I'm going to get the address of that packet, and we store the address of the packet in a pointer variable called packet pointer. So packet pointer is a pointer to a packet object. Okay, so this is how I declare an object to a a pointer to an object. So packet is a class name star packet pointer. So like you say int star some pointer name, so you say packet star a pointer name, and you need to set the value of that pointer to an address, and it stores the address of a particular object of class packet. Okay, so it will store the address of an object of class whatever you declared here, in this case packet. So packet2. So packet pointer now has the address of packet2. So that means we can access that packet using this packet pointer. So I say packet pointer. So this is how you access a member function of a class of an object using a pointer. So if it's an object itself, we can say that object name dot. Okay, so packet2 dot get ID or set ID, whatever you want to do. But when you want to do the same thing with the pointer to an object, so you have to use the arrow operator. So packet pointer arrow set data, you pass the value. Similarly, if you want to print the ID and data using the pointer, you have to say packet pointer arrow get ID and packet pointer arrow get data. So now what I am doing is, so far this packet pointer is pointing to packet2. Now I am creating a new packet, so a new packet object, and making packet pointer to point to new packet object. So this is a different pointer, remember. So packet pointer is pointing to packet2 or the address, or storing the address of packet2 and is really pointing to that object, that memory space. Now this PKT-PTR is a new pointer, it's a different pointer, again for class packet. So it is now pointing to a different object. Okay. So now I can set the ID and data of that new object using this PKT-PTR by using the arrow operator. Okay. Now this copy packet PTR is also a pointer for class to an object of class packet. That's how you have to say it. It's a pointer to an object of class packet, and I'm assigning the value of copy packet PTR to be to the value of packet PTR. So packet PTR stores the address of the new packet that we just created. So copy packet PTR is also now going to point to that object because it stores the address of that object. So why I'm doing that is because initially packet PTR is pointing to an object, this object with ID 3 and data 30. Now I want to make it point to a new packet object of ID 4 and 40. So I don't want to lose the access to this third packet that I created. So that is why I'm creating a pointer called copy packet PTR, and it stores the address of packet PTR. So it's not the address, it stores the value of packet PTR, and what packet PTR stores? It stores the address of this packet with ID 3 and data 30. So when I say copy packet PTR equals packet PTR, whatever is the value of packet PTR is now also the value of copy packet PTR. So what is the value of packet PTR? It stores the address of this packet object. So that is the value of now copy packet PTR. So you can access the third object with ID data 3 and data 30 using copy packet PTR. Now after this statement, you can no longer access this third object with packet PTR because it is now pointing to a new packet of ID and data 4 and data 40. So when you call the get ID and get data function, it will print 4 and 40. On the other hand, you can call the get ID and get data on the copy packet PTR, it will print 3 and 30. Now since this packet is dynamically allocated in memory, you can, once you're done with that packet, you can delete that packet by calling delete packet PTR, the pointer name, so it just clears the address. Now this copy packet PTR and the other packet PTR both are still pointing to a valid address, so that memory is not cleared yet. Okay. Now what I'm also doing here is I'm going to create an array of packet objects. So when I say new packet of num packets, which is the number of packets you get as input from user, again like an integer, you are creating consecutive block of packet objects, and this packet array is storing the address of the first packet object. So it's an array to an array so it's a pointer to an array of packet objects, and you can run through a for loop and use now this packet arrays of ID. So now it's pointing to an object. Is that? No, it's storing the address of the packet object, right? So packet array stores the address of the first packet object where it is, right? So when I say packet array of ID, so you're accessing the first object, okay, itself. You're accessing the object itself. So packet array of ID will get you access to the object itself. Since it is an object, you have to use a dot operator and call the set ID. So packet array stores the address of the first packet in the array. So when I say packet array of ID, you are accessing that means that object itself. So you have to use a dot operator to access the member function. So dot set ID, dot set data. Similarly, to print the ID and data, you have to use dot get ID and dot get data on the packet array pointer. Okay. So remember, this is different from this case because it stores the address of a particular packet object, whereas here it stores the address of the base address of the array of packets. So when I say packet array of ID, you are basically accessing the first packet object when ID is 0. When ID is 1, you are accessing the second packet object. When ID is 3, you are accessing the fourth packet object, and so on. So you have to use a dot operator because you are accessing on the object itself.